Have you ever heard of the Sload? You may think of the dainty Sload in Solitude or Sload soap from Morrowind, but what is a Sload? They haven't actually really had much of an appearance in the main Elder Scrolls games, often just being mentioned in dialogue and history books, though they did make an appearance in the spin-off game Elder Scrolls Redguard. You see, the Sload are these big, fat, slug, toad-like fatties that have very, very powerful magic. They are especially adept at necromancy. They're one of the most interesting races, mainly because they're just so different. They don't mimic the basic humanoid forms of elves, men, Argonians, or Khajiit. Today, you and I are going to dive deep into 5 facts about the Sload. Fact number 1. The biology of a Sload is, interesting, to put it one way. They have a life cycle unlike the Tamrielic races. You see, they start off their lives as tiny, non-sentient, blobby grub things that just sort of exist as an entity of flubber until it hits puberty and turns into a squishy, aquatic, octopus-looking creature called a polwiggle. It's these polwiggles and Sload larvae that adult Sload will use to make Sload soap, a rare and potent alchemical ingredient. We will elaborate on Sload morality later, but for the ones that aren't turned into soap, adulthood is reached. They grow into large, slug-like bipedal creatures that are slow, heavy, and possess an obscene odor. They are said to have limiting grasping power because of their poorly formed slug hands, so a lot of tool use is not possible. That's where the magic comes in. As far as reproduction goes, it's a little odd. Sload are hermaphrodites as they live in the sea where they reproduce, but once they're old enough to walk on land, their genitals are absorbed into their body, rendering them infertile. Any larvae or polwiggle offspring are not cared for or cared about by the matured Sload. Fact number 2. To quite simply encapsulate what a Sload is, I would use the phrase fat asshole. Most Sload are selfish and calculating, plotting, scheming, and manipulating to further their own interests. They have an abundantly clear lack of reasonable moral code, as they commonly commit acts of genocide, murder, theft, kidnapping, torture, and pretty much anything under the sun. Loyalty is another element that the Sloads simply do not grasp. No honor, no friendship, it's all about themselves. Sload have very powerful minds and are renowned as quick thinkers, however they are very cautious in their decision making, which can be counterproductive to their natural gift. These blobby sentients also have a hard time sincerely relating to human emotions, lacking empathy. However, they can make very good diplomats as they can quite often skillfully act out human emotions, but they can sometimes miss the mark and overcompensate, like laughing at a bad joke or crying when a kid drops a sweet roll. Essentially, they are fat slug sociopaths. Fact number 3, their culture very much reflects their personality and biology. Greedy and self-absorbed, the Sload have gained a reputation as skilled merchants and smugglers. However, while naturally ambitious, the Sload are never seen to be reckless. Mindfulness is a trait of immense value in Sload society. The heroes of their mythology spent many years contemplating and perfecting their ultimate move, which helps them have success over the brash and quick-thinking villains who are doomed to fail. The closest translation in the Sload language for the word adventure is tragic disaster. Magic is also incredibly fundamental to the Sload, especially necromancy. Sload frequently use teleportation and recall spells to move around with ease, as their lard-like bodies are quite cumbersome. While the Sload do not have any gods of worship, they do revere their heroes and even have great reverence for Manamako for his necromancy prowess. They do perform ritualistic sacrifices to Daedric princes, but this is about business and not simply supplicating to them. Fact number 4. Towards the end of the First Era, the Sload engineered a plague that would wipe out half of Tamriel's population. This was one of the most devastating events in Tamriel's history. In the year 2260 of the First Era, the Emperor had the King of Anvil, Bendu Olo, assemble the largest ever united navy in Tamriel's history. This was called the All Flags Navy. The All Flags Navy set sail for the Sload's home, the Isle of Thras. They persevered across the seas through the storms that were conjured by the scheming Sload and reached Thras. When they arrived at the shores, they violently and vengefully slaughtered every living Sload in sight. Thras was then sunk with powerful magic. Bendu Olo had the help of the god Siribane, who used his ring to destroy the plague, and Tamriel was saved from further devastation at the hands of the Sload. However, this was not the end for the Sload, and the kingdom of Thras would rise again in the future. Fact number 5, the Sload are notoriously powerful in the arcane art of necromancy. Sload have used airships to transport gargantuan amounts of corpses from Central and elsewhere back to their home of Thras to be revived as thralls. thralls to perform mundane work and essentially be an undead workforce or army. Sload merchants have also been seen buying enormous amounts of slaves in Tyr and Morrowind, which are then killed and made into dead thrall slaves. They even use massive amounts of their own larvae in rituals of necromancy. Either that or they're being turned into soap. So childhood does not sound very appealing as a Sload. Sload have also revived dead sea creatures like crabs or turtles to use as pets. They also revive sea monsters to use them when conquering other areas. Thralls and necromancy are fundamental parts of Sload battle strategy and war. Subscribe for more fun Elder Scrolls lore videos just like this one. Like and share the video if you would like to meet one of these fat sociopathic assholes in the next Elder Scrolls game. I'm Scott from FudgeMuppet and I will see you next time.